While the atrocities committed by high-ranking Nazi officials during World War II are known and documented, the lives of their wives after the war have often been overlooked. These women were married to some of the most notorious figures in history. But what happened to them once the war was over? Were they held responsible for the actions of their husbands, or were they able to live a peaceful life? Let's take a closer look at the post-war experiences of the Nazi wives and the impact it had on their lives. Ilse Hess led a life marked by her unwavering allegiance to the Nazi Party and her marriage to Rudolf Hess. She became Rudolf Hess's companion, standing by his side through the years of Third Reich. Ilse and Rudolf Hess met in the early 1920s, and their relationship became stronger among the rising tide of National Socialism. In 1921, she initially joined the Nazi Party, and she was initially attracted to Rudolf Hess, but he hesitated to pursue a relationship. This introduced Hess to Adolf Hitler, who actively engaged in social events hosted by affluent women. Hitler played a significant role in influencing the marriage between Lisa and Hess, which occurred on December 20, 1927 in Munich. Hitler stood as the godfather to their only child, Wolf Hess, born in 1937. Throughout the war, Ilse remained a supporter of the Nazi regime. Her loyalty was most evident when her husband embarked on a solo flight to Scotland, a successful attempt to negotiate peace with the United Kingdom. Ilse defended his intentions and continued to stand by the party. Ilse Hess's life after the war was marked by the challenges of rebuilding and adapting to a world that had changed. With her husband sentenced to life imprisonment during the Nuremberg trials, she was left to raise their son alone. After World War II, Ilse Hess and some other wives of high-ranking Nazis who were either convicted or executed in Nuremberg trials got arrested. They shipped her off to a camp in Augsburg. When they let her go, she moved to another place and opened a boarding house by 1955. Her later years were spent advocating for her husband's release from Spandau prison, where he was held until his death in 1987. Ilse Hess passed away on September 7, 1995, leaving behind a complex legacy with the history of Nazi Germany. Margarete Himmler was the wife of Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler. In a twist of irony, Margarete Himmler was initially trained as a nurse with the noble intention of saving lives in World War I. After the war, she transitioned to the German Red Cross Hospital, and with her father's financial support, she even managed a private nursing clinic. Margarete first crossed paths with Heinrich Himmler during one of his lecture tours in 1927. His attraction to her was immediate, captivated by her blue eyes and blonde hair. They married in July the following year. Despite Himmler's initial apprehension about introducing Margarete to his Catholic family because of their age difference and her previous marriage, as well as her Protestant faith, finally his family accepted Margarete. The couple welcomed their daughter Gudrun into the world on August 8, 1929. Margarete was far from a passive spectator in her husband's activities. She became a member of the Nazi Party in 1928 and arranged gatherings for the wives of high-ranking SS leaders. Despite her involvement, she was unpopular. During the Nuremberg meeting in 1938, she had disagreements with the other women, who refused to follow her lead. By the end of 1939, Margarete was overseeing the operation of Red Cross hospitals throughout Berlin-Brandenburg. Her role sent her on missions to countries and regions under German Wehrmacht's occupation. In her diary, there is a noted trip to Poland, which was under German occupation at the time, in March 1940, confirming her eyewitness account of the events unfolding there. Margarete wrote, "Then I was in Warsaw. This Jewish, most of them don't look like human beings, and the dirt is unbelievable. It is an incredible job trying to create order there." In February 1945, Margarete wrote to Gabriel Himmler, Heinrich Himmler's brother, expressing her thoughts on Himmler. "How wonderful that he has been called to great tasks and is equal to them. The whole of Germany is looking to him." In April 1945, Margarete and Himmler shared a final moment before his death. Their marriage had ended years before, with Margarete discovering in 1941 that Himmler was entangled with his secretary, with whom he had 2 children. When the war concluded, Margaret was subjected to numerous investigations, probing the extent of her knowledge regarding her husband's affairs. She denied any awareness and pleaded to be cleared of the Nazi association, absolving her of her husband's crimes. In 1953, she was deemed a profiteer of the Nazi regime and sentenced to 30 days of prison, and because of that, she was stripped of her voting rights. After her release, she lived under a fake name, Margaret Budden, until her death in 1967, and tried to distance herself from her past. Lina Heydrich, Lina's brother Hans, was an ardent member of the Nazi Party and the SA. His high praise of the party led Lina to a meeting in 1929, where Adolf Hitler delivered a speech that impacted her, promoting Lina to join the Nazi Party. At the age of 19, she met Heydrich, eventually leading to their engagement announcement on December 18, 1930. However, the subsequent years saw Heydrich facing charges, conduct and becoming to an officer and gentleman for violating engagement promise to a woman he had been involved with for 6 months before his engagement to Lina. This led to his dismissal from the Navy in April, leaving him without a career. It was Lina who suggested the possibility of a career in the SS. Heydrich's ideas for an SS intelligence service promoted Himmler to appoint him as the chief of the Foreign Intelligence Service. As an acknowledgement of her husband's dedication to the Nazi Party, Hitler gifted Lina with a large estate. At the estate, she kept several prisoners for forced labor, and she abused them physically. The family resided there until April 1945, when they, along with many other Germans, escaped the closing Soviet Red Army. After World War II, Lina was acquitted from her crimes through a couple of court battles against the West Germany government in 1956 and 1959, a contentious decision given her husband's significant role in the Holocaust. In 1965, during a vacation to Finland, she met and later married Finnish theatre Manu Manian, a move mostly aimed at changing her surname. She managed her first husband, Heydrich's former summer house on Munich, turning it into a restaurant. In 1976, she wrote a memoir, Life with a War Criminal. She defended her first husband's reputation up until her passing at the age of 74 on August 14, 1985. Emmy Göring. Emmy Göring married the prominent Luftwaffe chief and Nazi Hermann Göring on April 10, 1935. Even though Emma did not actively seek membership, she was gifted Nazi Party induction as a Christmas present in 1938. Emmy Göring held the responsibility of being Hitler's hostess at numerous state functions before the start of World War II. Her self-proclaimed status as the First Lady of the Third Reich led to a significant rift with Hitler's future wife, Eva Braun, whom Emma openly disregarded and treated with an unrespectable way. This behavior resulted in Hitler demanding Hermann Göring to instruct Emma to treat Eva with respect. Eva Braun held hatred against Emma for her assumption of being the First Lady of the Third Reich. Emma was in a position of significant power and wealth in Europe, and therefore enjoying a lavish lifestyle during World War II. Her husband's ownership of estates and castles in Germany and Poland, garnered from the confiscation of art and wealth from Jewish and other classified as enemies by the Nazi regime, were testimonies to their wealth. Upon their daughter's birth, her husband commanded of 500 planes to fly over Berlin, stating that he would have been double the number had it been a boy. After the war, a German court found Emmy guilty of being a Nazi, leading to a year-long prison. After her release, a part of her wealth, amounting to 30%, was seized, and she was prohibited from performing on stage for 5 years. After her time in jail, Emma managed to get a tiny apartment for herself in Munich. She also wrote an autobiography called My Life with Göring. Emma passed away in Munich on June 8, 1973. She was 18 years old.